This episode is proudly sponsored by Outdoor Fitness Bahamas, Naturally Bahamian, and Amber L. Contact us today to learn how you can be a part of the vibration experience. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Vibration, where we empower individuals to speak their distinct truth, passions, and personal message on a global online stage. I'm your host, Michelle McDonald, passionate foodie, author, and entrepreneur. And tonight, I give a special thank you to our show sponsors, Outdoor Fitness Bahamas, Naturally Bahamian, and Amber L. Continuing under the theme of striving to improve food security and sustainability in the Bahamas, tonight's topic is the beneficial nutritional value of whole, sustainable foods. Our guest this evening is Dr. Janette E. Martin, who has over 30 years of clinical work experience, having worked in mental health, emergency, and cardiac units in the Bahamas and the U.S. as a registered nurse. Her clinical skills led to exploration in other healthcare-related industries, such as pharmaceutical sales and group health insurance, specializing in disease management and on-site workplace health and wellness. Natural curiosity, empathy, and discipline are the basis for Jan's success as a health and wellness expert. Over the years, she completed a bachelor's degree in biology and theology, a master's in counseling psychology, and a doctorate in human behavior, along with a diploma in medical nutritional therapy and certificates in obesity and diabetes management. She is the Director of Medical and Surgical Weight Loss, as well as Diabetes and Chronic Disease Services at Doctors Hospital, and an adjunct lecturer with the University of the People, the first nonprofit, American accredited, and tuition-free online university dedicated to opening access to higher education around the world. Jan has developed and facilitated numerous workplace and community health and wellness programs. Some of these include the National Insurance Board's Get Well Bahamas, the Bahamas Hotel and Allied Industries Pension Fund Health Program, Well on Your Way, and the Bain and Grantstown Community Health and Wellness Program, Taking Shape. Jan volunteers with the Bahamas Red Cross Society, assisting with efforts to improve the lives of those in need. She also enjoys running, yoga, dancing, and cooking. Dr. Martin, welcome to the stage tonight.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
You're very welcome. And I want to also say, as a part of Teachers Appreciation Month, we want to say that we appreciate you, all of the teaching that you do through your role as lecturer at the University of the People. It is much appreciated, and we want you to know that through everything that you're doing, you are making a difference to inspire and motivate your students.
Thank you.
Dr. Martin, your healthcare experience has spanned across clinical hours, disease management, as well as health and medical nutrition, among others. This has also included roles as a registered nurse, also in pharmaceutical sales, health insurance, as a lecturer and a director. What has continued to fuel your passion for health and wellness, and also helping others through it for over 30 years?
Now you've told everyone my age. Well, my reason for that's kept the fervor in what I do is because I love to see the results after a person or group of people have initiated the lifestyle changes. If they come to me with an illness and they start to make those healthy lifestyle changes, and you can see the person's diseases, their self-esteem, their body and mind being transformed within weeks and certainly within months if they maintain those healthy lifestyle changes. And so that's what sustained me. People need help, and they just need realistic help. Not everybody can understand what their physician or healthcare provider say to them. And so if in my line of work as a behavioral therapist, as a registered nurse first, and as a behavioral therapist, I've learned to meet people where they're at. And once you do that, then you can see the light bulbs going on, and they making the changes that they can realistically make given their financial positions and their level of education.
Thank you for that. And you mentioned something that is so important that we don't keep in mind, and it's meeting people where they are.
Yes.
We often feel, especially when it comes to health and wellness, that we are starting at a disadvantage. Like wherever we are is not enough, and the end goal seems so far away. And so we appreciate doctors like you who meet us where we are. You relate with us and you take us through the process, giving us hope every step of the way.
I try to do that. I like to work with adults, groups, children, and their parents, just to see the transformative process take place.
Yes, I imagine that's a beautiful thing, just being able to see them from start to finish going through that.
It certainly is. When I have a patient that's referred with say, pre-diabetes, and they are afraid to become diabetic, and I
Mm,
can calm them and reassure them that if they follow simple steps in changing their eating habits and movement, within 3 months, when they go back to their physician, their numbers will be a little lower, and
yeah,
they may have not gone over into the diabetes stage. So it's wonderful to see.
that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that story with us.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how food sustainability and security tie uniquely into proper health, wellness, and nutrition.
Well, the thing about it is with proper health, wellness, and nutrition, it all begins with food. Food is our medicine, and that should be our first line of medicine. And to tie in the sustainability, we need to make the food that people need accessible. They
Mhm.
need to be able to access the homegrown, culturally grown foods, and be able to afford those foods. And so that helps to sustain health and wellness across all ages into the next generation. Food that is grown in non-toxic environments, food
Mhm.
that is grown according to seasons, and making that food accessible and affordable to everyone, no matter what area of life they're in, what stage of life they're in. And once we have access to clean, healthy water and
Mhm.
seasonal foods that's affordable, grown in non-toxic environments, vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, persons can thrive and be healthy. What food like that does too is when we encourage persons to adopt eating such foods on a seasonal basis, we
Mhm.
could even reduce the mortality that we see in the country, such as
Oh.
prediabetes, high blood pressure,
Mm.
and obesity, because obesity has really become a healthcare crisis in the Bahamas. And if we make the healthy food affordable and accessible, then we can address some of those issues surrounding obesity.
Yes, thank you for that. And I am aware that the Bahamas has a startling statistic when it comes to obesity. So that is a very good point that you made. And also with seasonal foods, because, there are things that we love to have around the year, but, naturally these foods aren't available. And so there is value and a sense of importance that comes with selecting and sticking with the seasonal foods.
Yes, there is a health value, especially for persons who, and I keep going back to diabetes because obesity is a major crisis, and so is diabetes in the country. And we're seeing young children being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, which is highly preventable, and it is lifestyle related. It is certainly what we put in our mouths, and movement. And so, if we could make it accessible and affordable, we can tackle diseases like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and high cholesterol.
I love that. I love what I'm hearing. I know there's going to be a lot more in the episode. So, all of you guys in the audience, stay tuned for that. We're going to have some good stuff on here. So, tying into this, Dr. Martin, there is a selection of nutrients that our body needs on a daily basis that allow us to function at our optimal level, which is something all of us strive to do. This may be something that most of us are unaware of, and we don't even realize that we lack, especially through the foods that we eat. Can you provide insight on these nutrients and why it's important to ensure that we source them through our eating?
Well, first it starts with the 5 food groups. And the 5 food groups are fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, that fits into the whole grains, a milk source or alternatives to a milk source, and of course our proteins. And the protein source could come from the beans, the legumes. Legumes are certainly, it's just a bean that's grown out of the ground. So the protein can be red meat, poultry, or seafood, shellfish. Of course, with seafood and red meat, we want to eat those proteins in moderation. So,
Mhm.
like a vegetarian or vegan would get most of their protein from the legumes and the fruits and sorry, the vegetables and the whole grains. So when we look at the foods that provide the nutrition to keep us going and to keep us healthy, we want to choose on a daily basis from those 5 groups. And really, all of our meals should contain a small portion of those foods from those 5 groups. We also have to look at how we prepare the foods because that's very
Mhm.
important. Preparation is key to reducing the incidence of obesity, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and any non-communicable illness. So the preparation of those foods are important as well. And let me add that water is essential to life. We
Yeah.
could go without food for weeks, but we cannot go without water. So, despite water being in the list of the 5 food groups, it is a given that water is the key to life. Um, and so, we should be drinking water before we even feel thirsty. Our
Mhm.
cells, every cell in an organ in our body requires water to function at its optimal state. And so water is key to the life. And we also need to be eating those recommended food groups in the serving size that is also recommended. And the serving size for most of those food groups is a half a cup. And I always say to persons, use your hands to gauge the size or the amount or the serving size of the food, because you're not always going to walk around with a serving size cup or so,
Yeah.
a half a cup can fit into the palm of your hand. If you have a small
Mhm.
palm, that's the size you should be eating of that food. Yes, a half a cup. 4 to 6 ounces of protein. Certainly with fruits and vegetables, you want to have at least 4 to 5 servings of vegetables a day. 2 servings of fruit for an adult. For a child, you're looking for 4 servings. And fruits and vegetables, they have a lot of antioxidants, a lot of minerals, a lot of vitamins. And we should really only be supplementing what we don't get in our foods rather than buying a whole dray load of supplements
Oh,
and
yeah.
taking those, and only a trace of them stay in the body. And so a lot of, if we want to maintain our health, if we want to realize a healthy lifestyle, we need to be choosing portions or serving sizes from those food groups, drinking water, and of course looking at the portions of food and how we prepare them. You will look better, you will feel better, you will live longer, and you will live longer giving more to the people you claim to love.
There we go. Yes. And I think one of the biggest takeaways from what you said is living longer, feeling better. And so once we are here and we have a higher quality of life because of the food that we selected, because we are naturally incorporating those vitamins and the antioxidants that you mentioned, we are doing good for our bodies and by extension, as you stated, the persons that we love. So we don't even realize the beneficial ripple effect
That's
of
right.
selecting the things. It's not just about us, it is about those around us and also those that we influence. They see what we eat, they start asking questions. I'm sure you've seen this happen with you all the time. And this actually helps them to improve their lives as well.
Certainly, certainly it does. And with kids, we have to be careful with giving them large portion sizes.
Yeah.
And I want to stress that point too, that the portions and the preparation of the foods that we choose are extremely important. And it's important to whether we develop a lifestyle, a non-communicable illness like prediabetes or type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure. It is important to whether we become overweight or obese. And so
Mhm.
the preparation and portions that we give to ourselves and to our children are extremely important. We are giving, in some instances, some parents give their children the same amount of food that they would put on an adult plate. And
Yes.
children's stomachs are smaller. Our
Mhm.
stomachs are are like an elastic band. So the more we put in it, the more it accommodates. And so over
Mhm.
time, it's going to accommodate more. But essentially, children's portion sizes should also be the palm of their hand. And so if
Oh,
we all look at the palm of our hands, we could gauge the portions of food that we should really be putting on our plates, except, of course, for vegetables. Our plate should be half vegetables and salad, right? And so that's like this, both palms of your hands. But when it comes, yeah, both. But when it comes to proteins and legumes and whole grains, and it really should be the portions size of the palm of your hand, which is half a cup. And of course, for children, it's less than half a cup in certain food groups.
so for some of the nutrients that you would have mentioned, vitamins or minerals, can you give us an example of what we should be looking for in our foods?
Well, what you're looking for like I mentioned, we're looking to increase our vegetable intake because vegetables have anti-inflammatory um, uh, chemicals in it, sorry, not chemicals, anti-inflammatory qualities that would help to prevent heart disease, that would help to keep our blood pressures in normal and stable, that would help to keep our blood sugars and our blood cholesterols within normal ranges. And so vegetables are key to everyday eating. And I think we need to be looking at an assortment of vegetables. The dark
Mm-hmm.
leafy greens, for instance, they give us a lot of iron. They also give us a lot of vitamins, different vitamins from A to C to D. And so that's why we want to really include vegetables, half of our plate, on a daily basis. Fruits, for instance, we get a lot of vitamin C's, vitamin A's. We get minerals from fruits and vegetables as well. And there's a variety. And that is why we need not take a lot of supplements unless you go to a physician and the physician have you do some laboratory tests. And
Mm-hmm.
with those laboratory tests, some of them would ask for a B12 or a D3 or a B6. And if you're deficient in those areas, the physician would then tell you how much of that supplement you need to supplement along with your food, along with those fruits and vegetables. And for children, children need a variety of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. Why? Because their brains, their bones, their bodies are growing.
Mm-hmm.
And we want their bones to grow strong. And so they really need the milk or the milk alternatives. As adults need it as well because we have our teeth, we have our bones, that we need those calcium products from the milk or milk alternatives that help to uh, build our bones and our teeth. We need the carrots for our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the carrots for our eyes really work, believe it or not. And so we need those fresh fruits and vegetables on a daily basis, and we only supplement if you have a blood test and the physician says, well, you need to take extra B12, and they would tell you how much to take, or more B6, or even vitamin D3. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as black persons, we don't absorb as much of the sun rays as a fairer skinned person or a Caucasian person. So our
Mm-hmm.
melanin prevents us from absorbing a lot of that vitamin D from the sun. And so you would hear doctors encourage older persons in their 30s or 40s, to supplement with D3. But your physician should guide you with supplements. And then that would determine, and that would ensure that you don't over supplement, because we can over supplement as well.
Yes,
With children,
easily.
when we give them those fruits and vegetables, when they wake up in the morning and have a hearty breakfast, and we send them to school with lunch. You heard me say lunch and not lunch money.
Yes, very important.
It's very important. Why? Because children would purchase all the sweetened drinks. They would
Mm-hmm.
purchase and we need
Fries.
to keep them from
Yes.
those sweet drinks, over processed foods, because they are inflammatory foods, and they cause illness in the body. When we give the children these types of foods, we increase their concentration, we
Mm-hmm.
increase their attention, and we increase their memory. Don't we want smart kids, Michelle?
We do,
We
all of
do.
them.
And when we give ourselves that, we increase concentration, attention, memory, mindfulness,
Yes.
awareness. We feel better, we look better, and we treat ourselves and others better.
Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have mentioned two to three really, really great things. One of them, I loved how you mentioned the preparation, because we look at our recipes on Pinterest and we think, okay, steam is the same as boil, and if I saute it, it may not be as bad as if I fry it, but we're not truly aware of like how many of the nutrients have we lost through the process. So that is a good thing. And I also loved your inclusion when you talk about the different food groups, and how with the vegan or vegetarian, they can get the majority or all of their protein from the legumes, and not necessarily from the meat source that they don't eat. You touched on something extremely important that I was going to ask about. So you must have known this was a very, very timely topic, which is the nutrients for child development. Because,
Yes,
in the morning, most parents are just rushing out, and, it's so much easier to go to the snack store, grab a couple of the favorite things that they like, things that are easy, sometimes things that are cheap, and we think, hey, your lunch bag is packed. I did good. I'm just too busy. But most of the times, it's just that they're unaware of the dangers of some of the foods that they're
yes,
including, and
yes,
not realizing that if they stop to buy the apples or the bananas, have a lot more water to substitute for the juice and keeping your kid hydrated, these kids can be a lot more focused and more developed
that's right.
according to their age.
That's right. That's right. And we started off when you asked me earlier, what has kept me in this field for so long. It is because of that. It is because when you educate people, when you give persons the tools, when you teach them how to fish, then they learn and they're able to make the changes within their homes. Now, the changes they make may not be as strict as we would or somebody else would, but the changes would be helpful to them and their children, because you know what we teach what we do, our children see, and they
Yes.
carry those same behaviors into adulthood and into their own homes when they become adults and have their own homes. And so it's important for us to stay in the game, to keep teaching, to keep and to keep it real, to just
Yes.
keep it real, and keep it with our cultural foods, our
Hmm.
cultural fruits and vegetables, because every season in this country we have fruits that are delicious, and those fruits have the vitamins and minerals that we need to sustain us and to help our kids grow into healthy, whole children and adults.
Yes, and that is absolutely what we want. We want our kids to grow strong and healthy, knowing that the decisions that we are making every day is continuing to make a difference in their lives. And
That's
we
right.
know that kids, just as you stated, they are our biggest imitators, right? After just seeing us do things for a certain period of time, they repeat it naturally.
That's right.
I have a nephew. I love teaching him how to cook, so making things from scratch. And so now every time that he sees me, he wants to cook or he wants to bake, and I stick with more healthier things, like more plant-based things, and he loves that. Right. The other day, I was sending him off, and I asked him if he wanted something out of the fridge. I'm thinking like a tangerine, a banana, and he asked for broccoli, like raw broccoli.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
I was so
Excellent.
surprised, and he just started eating it. And
Yes.
my sister was like, he's just the weirdest kid. But these are the greatest things that we want. We want this to be the normal, that they want like the healthier foods. They're not afraid of it. They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
want. And they just
Yeah.
start eating.
Yeah. And the thing about it too, Michelle, we can have discretionary calories. And when I talk
Mhm.
about discretionary calories, I mean those are the things like cakes and pastries and
Mhm.
ice cream and cookies, and a chip every now and again. We can have those maybe once a week if we're eating 80 to 85% healthy throughout the week. We could
Mhm.
have those in the portions, and I cannot not say don't have the portions. And so there's nothing wrong with giving your kid or you yourself a scoop of ice cream on the
Yes.
weekend. But not throughout the week. There's nothing wrong with
Mhm.
having a slice of cake or a slice of pie or 3 or 4 cookies. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I like to encourage persons to do and to remind them of is, maintain your healthy choices throughout the week, at least 80% of the time, and then on the weekend, give yourself a little treat with something that you love. I'm a chocoholic. I love chocolate. So you bring me some chocolate, I'm going to eat that. But what I am going to do is my next meal, I'm going to be very mindful
Yes.
of what I put on my plate, and I am going to move my body, because we're talking a lot about food, but what energy in through food equals energy out. And that
Mm-hmm.
is why our obesity levels are increasing. Our children, our adults aren't moving as often as we should. And COVID did not help. As a matter of fact, COVID made all of us into couch potatoes. Instead
Mm-hmm.
of walking the dog, we watched the dog. But yeah, we need to move more. You know, the American Cardiac Association advises that we move 5 days per week for at least 30 minutes, not missing 2 consecutive days. And so if we even
Mm.
do that, you know, 30 minutes of walking, it equates to about 7,000 steps. If you want to
Right.
lose weight, you could increase it to 1 hour of walking, which will
Okay.
equate to about nearly 10,000 steps. So um, energy in, we're eating, we also have to move. When we
Mm-hmm.
move, it helps to reduce our blood pressures, our blood sugars, our blood cholesterol. It helps blood to flow throughout the body the way it should. It helps with our bowel movements. They become more
Mm-hmm.
consistent, and we sleep better.
Yeah.
It reduces anxiety. It reduces depressive states, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes us treat ourselves and others better. We respond better rather than react. And so there's so many healthy, sweet, lovely benefits to eating healthy and moving our bodies regularly.
Yes, those are some very, very key points. I really like that you gave us that tip about 30 minutes a day for 7,000 steps, and then we can bump it up just a little bit if we have our weight loss goals in mind and do that for an hour for up to 10,000 steps. And so we have a comment from Hasina Johnson, who is the Agriculture Science Coordinator at CV Bethel. And so she says, pleasant good evening. Education is key. Agreeing into what you had stated, the school's lunch program and the family and consumer sciences need to work in collaboration with the agricultural science program to create a farm to table idea. That sounds amazing. I know exactly what that's about. Lots of locally grown produce are available in a fresh state at many school campuses.
And that is true. That is true. Thank you for your comment, because it is true. And if we can just get the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education, which they've done in the past, they've done that in the past, they've collaborated and come up with the healthy lunch programs and different programs. I think, and I don't want to blame COVID for everything, but I think we've gotten a little lost and we're trying to find ourselves again. And programs such as this and other educational programs where we're in the forefront, people can see and hear us giving out this information and support. That is key to behavior change.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So you touched on a few things that connects with mental health, which is connected to this month as well, mental health awareness, which is also a part of your clinical work experience.
Yes.
So many may not realize this, but there are a range of nutrients, including plant-based antioxidants, that are beneficial to our overall mental health and boosting it in a positive way. Why are these so important? And which foods can we find these in naturally?
The key to it is, and when I work with persons, Michelle, I work with them mind, body, spirit. We cannot separate one without the other, because if we want to
Mm,
function and function well, we need to look at what we're putting into our bodies. We are certainly what we eat. We are certainly what we think. And so the foods that are key to a healthy mind and reducing mental illnesses such as anxiety and depression are your whole grain foods. They're fiber filled foods. They're low glycemic foods, meaning that they're lower in sugar when they're digested in the body, and so they give energy to the body. So carbohydrate foods such as the legumes, and that's the beans again, that's the whole grains, and the fruits and vegetables. Those foods are optimal to the treatment of any illness, including mental health illness. And there were studies done. There's about 3 studies I'd just like to briefly mention
Mm-hmm.
that were done in the area of food and nutrition to help with, to decrease the symptoms of diabetes, depression and anxiety. In 2018, there was the SMILES 12-week trial where 67 adults between the ages of 18 and 45, 60 was given um, um, the Mediterranean diet. Now, the Mediterranean diet is the diet that all of us should be eating, and it is really a plant-based legumes, beans, and uh, fish and um, wine. Actually, wine
Yep.
is key to that because it's heart health. But the keys to that study is after 12 weeks, the outcomes were that persons' depressive symptoms were reduced, and for some persons, they did not have any depressive symptoms and did not require medication. Now, there's another study that followed on the heels of that in 2019, where they took a combination of studies and put it together. And what they found, and it was over 45,000 persons, and this came out of England, uh, they used the Mediterranean diet, but
Mm-hmm.
they added extra virgin olive oil. Now,
Awesome.
extra virgin olive oil has anti-inflammatory properties. Extra virgin olive oil has also been tested, and and it's shown that it can reduce the incidences of strokes. It possibly reduces the development of Alzheimer's, and it also um, prevents heart attacks. And so that study revealed that everyone who entered that study was relieved of their depressive symptoms at the end of 12 weeks, did not
Wow.
require medication. And the women in that study, they benefited, and their anxiety attacks were reduced as well. Now, it didn't happen for the men, but the women in the studies, their anxiety attacks were reduced as well. And this was after 12 weeks. These were clinical trials done with food and nutrition using the Mediterranean diet and olive oil. So olive oil has some really good properties, and they are optimal for mental health and reduction of any kind of mental health, depression, or anxiety. Another food group that is essential as well is also the um, what is it they used in that red meat.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is that if you choose lean cuts of red meat, no more than 2 times a week. And so, a person's are saying, well, I don't eat red meat at all. Well, there's some good things in red meat. Iron, for one, is in red meat if we don't cook it all out. You mentioned about cooking out all the nutrients out of food.
Mm-hmm.
But fish, they're encouraging us to eat 2 to 3 servings of fish a week. this will also help. And that's the fatty fish, the fish that has the unsaturated fat, like the salmons, like the mackerel, like the sardines. And so there are so many benefits, nutritious benefits to choosing the fruits, vegetables, and the whole grain foods, especially to reduce those types of illnesses, lifestyle illnesses, and depression.
Yes, very, very important point. And the results from the studies that you mentioned are incredible.
Yeah,
12 weeks really gave them a transformative difference.
yes,
And I know of persons that have panic attacks, anxiety attacks. And so just being able to hear that through a lifestyle change, they can change their life.
yep,
That's amazing.
yep, yep. Because the normal Western diet as we know it is heavily is high in saturated fats,
Hmm.
which is the bad fat, and it's not good for our heart health. It's high in salt, it's high in sugars, it's high in other preservatives because it's prepackaged. And anything that's prepackaged, you have to increase the shelf life. And when
Hmm.
you increase the shelf life, how do we do that? We have to add salt. And so when we adhere to that type of diet, then we see the levels of obesity increase. We have an increase of high blood pressure, increase of type 2 diabetes. And that's what we're seeing when persons eat that kind of food regularly with no exercise.
Thank you for that. And you have touched on something because I wanted us to explore just a bit on how disease management can happen when we select the right food. So you've already touched on heart disease and obesity. Are there any other ways that food can help prevent diseases or reduce the effects of them?
Um, Well, we're looking at how we prepare the foods. That's very important. Some persons, and I spent some time at UG Pines many years ago, and they are mainly vegans, Seven-Day Adventists, and so they use food as medicine for just for every illness, just about. And many years ago, in the 1800s before Christ, Hippocrates says, let's let food be our medicine and medicine our food. And now
Mhm.
we're living and seeing that if we employ healthy eating of all of those food groups, particularly the whole grains, the legumes, which are beans, the fruits and the vegetables, every single day, then we know our blood sugars will be lower because that's high fiber foods and they're low glycemic foods. And we know that our colon health is going to be maintained because they are high fiber foods and they
Mhm.
help to flush through the body and they take longer to digest, releasing sugars in a moderately flow. So it's going to keep the sugars down. It's going to fill you up longer, and it's going to increase your bowel health. It will decrease your blood sugars. It will decrease your cholesterol. You know, when you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you your total cholesterol is high, your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, that's high, your triglycerides are high. We need to put you on some oats. Oats are it's a whole grain. It has a
Mhm.
lot of fiber and it's a low glycemic carbohydrate. Now, what is glycemic? Glycemic index. Scientists has given every carbohydrate a number ranging from 0 to 100. The
Mhm.
lower end from 0 to 55 are your low glycemic foods. Those, I say to persons, eat as much of these as you want when you're having your meals. Now, when I say as much as those, within the portions for each group. And then from 56 to about 69, 70, that is your moderate glycemic index. Those are the foods that are higher in sugar during digestion. And then from 70 to 100, those are your high glycemic carbohydrates. Those are the ones that really peak and raise your blood sugars as soon as you um, eat them, and they cause the problems. And those are the white potatoes, um, and the potato chips, and the macaroni, and the potato salad.
Yeah. Those last ones are the one we're familiar with on our plates, especially on Sundays.
So yes, so if we want to prevent those illnesses, we want to make sure that our plates are half vegetables and salads, a quarter protein, and a quarter a low glycemic carbohydrate. That is your sweet potato, your American yellow, pink yams. Um, that are your beans, because they are low glycemic legumes.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we've talked about preparation, we've talked about the nutrients that we can find in our foods. Can you give us 4 top tips for selecting nutrient-rich food daily, even if we're talking about some of the produce that we find here?
Okay, what I encourage persons to do is, we have a farmers market on Saturday, I think on Gladstone Road. We have the agriculture place out on East Bay Street, right? We
Mm-hmm.
also have another farmers market out west on a Sunday, Chickcharney Farms.
Mm-hmm.
Find your local farmers. Buy your fresh vegetables and your fresh fruit at whatever is in season, and plan your meals for the week. And so if you don't go to a farmer's market and you can't afford the fresh vegetables and fruit in the grocery store, the next thing to do is get the frozen fruit and vegetables, and do not cook them for long. Just steam them, because they're partially cooked before they freeze them.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot afford the frozen, then go to the can. But look for the cans of vegetables that are not filled with extra preservatives, no salt or low salt, and wash the vegetable off before cooking it. And like you said, Michelle, don't cook whatever nutrients are in there out. Steam them,
Yeah.
warm them, and add some fresh onions, add some fresh cabbage, because
Mm-hmm.
those are affordable vegetables. Add some sweet potato. Get the fresh vegetables that are more affordable. If you cannot afford the broccoli or the romaine lettuce, then get the other type of lettuce. So there's always a way to stretch the dollar, but
Mm-hmm.
planning is key. When you plan, you could plan and stock up ahead. We're in the hurricane season now, so
Mm-hmm.
you want to stock up on those can items and those frozen items, especially if you have a freezer, right? And you also want to stock up on the whole grain cereals, not the sweet cereals for the children and yourself. Whole grain cereals, eggs. Eggs don't go bad once you keep them in the refrigerator. Ingredients. So I have this acronym called PIP, planning, and I just went through planning. I are your ingredients. That's a part of your planning. When you go into the grocery store, before you get in the store, go through your cupboards and your refrigerator at home. Make a list. Then you would know what you need, and you don't overspend, because you're
Yes.
going in with so many dollars, and you have a budget. So to
Mm-hmm.
maintain and keep that budget, go in with a list and look at your ingredients. The next P in PIP is preparation, and you mentioned this. Look at how you're preparing your foods. Bake, boil, broil, or grilled. And look at your sauces. Stay away
Mm-hmm.
from those creamy sauces. They are high in fat. They are going to make you fat. Go with the vegetable sauces, the tomato sauces. So preparation is key. And the last P is portions. Use your hands
Yes.
as your guide. All right? And when you're eating out, ask for a doggy bag and take the, because they give you large servings. Before
Mm-hmm.
you dig into the plate, separate the food, put some on the container that you requested, and then take that home for your lunch the next day. And that's a savings. PIP. PIPP.
Thank you for that, Dr. Martin. And I'm sure we can all remember that PIPP, keeping that in mind so that we can make healthier choices, selecting nutrient rich foods. So, lastly, Dr. Martin, are there any upcoming health and wellness programs from a community perspective or any courses at the University of the People that you would recommend to provide more guidance regarding the value of nutrients in whole foods?
Well, here at Doctor's Hospital, where I consult, I'm building the disease management and weight loss clinic. So persons, I say to them, not everyone would fit into the category for bariatric surgery, which is stomach surgery. But more people need the medical nutrition therapy. And so you can
Mhm.
visit me here. The University of the People is an online non-profit university and it's out of the US. I
Mhm.
encourage many Bahamians who cannot afford the University of the Bahamas or any other schooling to apply to the University of the People. I think there's a small fee, application fee. I can't quote what that is, but once you go to their website, University of the People, it is an accredited university and it's been developed. It's one of the first online universities that was developed in the United States. And so they teach courses in computer science, teaching, management, and health science and psychology. I teach psychology and health science.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So that is excellent. Dr. Martin, your insight on the value of nutrients found in whole sustainable foods, your PIPP concept, which you can all remember, has provided an educated perspective on selecting our nutrient sources in a healthier way. Your wealth of knowledge on the nutrients needed not only as adults, but also in aiding proper child development has given us a renewed view on how we can treat our bodies better and also those of the ones we care for. Thank you for your tips on selecting nutrient rich foods and ways that we can improve our mental health as well as disease management and also ways to reduce obesity. Most importantly, you have shown how food security and sustainability have a direct impact on our nutritional intake and are to be supported through shopping local. To connect with Dr. Martin for more information on health and wellness programs as well as medical nutrition, contact her directly at 242 302 3256, as well as 242 816 7660. As a reminder, this episode is proudly sponsored by Outdoor Fitness Bahamas, Naturally Bahamian, and Amber L. A special thank you to our audience for watching and for all of your comments, and also to our guest speaker, Dr. Martin, who has continued to use her passion for health and wellness, as well as helping others to create a larger impact. If you missed the first part of this episode, you can watch the full replay on this Facebook page as well as YouTube. And also leave a heart in the comments if you are watching the replay. I invite you all to follow this page for show updates and join us next week for another episode of Vibration, where we amplify your truth and raise your frequency. Have a good evening.